Look at me when I speak. The Alpha King's voice hit me like a fist to the chest. Not because it was loud, because it carried the weight of absolute authority, the kind that made wolves drop to their knees without thinking, the kind that reminded you exactly how small you were. I didn't look up. My fingers twisted in the rough fabric of my cloak, the only thing between me and the cold stone floor where I knelt. The throne hall stretched out before me, massive and ancient, smelling of cedar and old power. I could feel hundreds of eyes on my back. Pack members who'd come to watch the Alpha King deal with another problem. Another broken rule. Another wolf who'd stepped out of line. They expected this to be quick. So did I. I will not repeat myself, Omega. Friend, before I tell you about the moment everything I'd built, every lie I'd lived, every careful step I'd taken for 12 years came crashing down in a single look, do me a kindness. Tap subscribe right now, because what happens in the next 60 seconds changed not just my life, but the entire foundation of what we thought we knew about power, about fate, about the monsters we're taught to fear. You won't want to miss what the Alpha King did when he realized what I really was. My name is Nyla Reeves. 24 years old. Nobody. Nothing. That's what I'd spent over a decade making sure everyone believed. I served meals in the pack house kitchen. I kept my head down. I spoke only when spoken to, and even then, barely above a whisper. I had no friends, no family, no reason for anyone to remember my name 5 minutes after I left a room. That's how I survived. But survival has a cost. Every single day, I swallowed herbs that tasted like poison and made my stomach cramp. Every single night, I wrapped my wrists in iron shavings mixed with ash, letting them burn just enough to suppress what lived inside me. Every single moment, I lived with the knowledge that one slip, one mistake, one instant of lost control would mean my death. I was 12 years old when I learned that lesson. The memory came without permission, sharp and clear as the day it happened. My mother's hand pushing me into the cellar. Her voice, steady despite the fear in her eyes. Don't come out. No matter what you hear. Promise me, Nyla. Promise. I'd promised. Then I'd heard her scream. I'd heard my father roar, the sound of an alpha protecting his family, fighting against impossible odds. I'd heard the howls of the hunting party, wolves who were supposed to be our neighbors, our friends. I'd heard the Alpha King's father give the order. One word. Execute. The silence after was worse than the screaming. I'd stayed in that cellar for 2 days. When I finally came out, there was nothing left but blood and burn marks. My parents' bodies were gone. The house was marked with the king's seal. A warning to anyone else who carried the wrong bloodline. The Silvercrest bloodline. My bloodline. The one the Alpha King's father had spent decades trying to wipe out, terrified of an old prophecy, of an ancient power that could challenge even the strongest alpha. He'd nearly succeeded. My parents had been the last mated pair. Which made me the last heir to a legacy I'd never wanted, to a power I'd spent 12 years choking down, hiding, pretending didn't exist. I'd built my entire life on that lie. And now, kneeling in this throne hall, accused of refusing a direct order from a senior pack member, I knew the lie was about to break. Omega. The Alpha King's voice dropped lower, more dangerous. I heard his footsteps, heavy boots against stone, coming closer. You defy me in front of my entire pack. You refuse commands. You show disrespect to your betters. I wanted to laugh. Disrespect. They thought this was about disrespect. I was trembling, yes, but not from fear of punishment. Not from terror of the Alpha King's wrath. I was trembling because it took every ounce of control I had not to look up. Not to meet his eyes. Not to let him see what I'd been hiding since the moment I'd walked into this hall and caught his scent. Pine and winter storm. Dominance and barely leashed violence. My mate. The bond had snapped into place the second I'd crossed the threshold, slamming into my chest like a physical blow. Every instinct I had screamed at me to look at him, to go to him, to submit to the pull that made my wolf whine and pace inside my mind. But I couldn't. Because the mate bond wasn't what they taught us in pack school. It wasn't some beautiful gift from the moon goddess. It wasn't destiny wrapped in starlight and poetry. It was a leash. My ancestors had created it that way, thousands of years ago, when alphas grew too powerful, too brutal, too drunk on their own strength. The Silvercrest bloodline had been protectors then, guardians who could forge bonds with dangerous alphas and force them to yield, to submit, to obey. They'd called us saviors, until the alphas realized what we could do. Then they called us tyrants, monsters, abominations. And they hunted us down, one by one, until only my parents remained. Until only I remained. The Alpha King stopped directly in front of me. I could see his boots, black leather, expensive. I could feel the heat of him, the raw power that made the air around him vibrate. "You test my patience," he said quietly, dangerously. A hand caught my chin. Rough fingers, calloused from weapons training, forced my head up with irresistible strength. I had no choice. I looked. Alpha King Thorn Ashford stared down at me, his face carved from stone and shadow. 29 years old. Ruthless. Brilliant. Terrifying. He'd taken the throne at 21 after his father's assassination, had held it through 3 separate challenges, had united 5 territories under his rule through a combination of strategic brilliance and absolute brutality when necessary. His eyes were storm gray, the kind that saw everything, missed nothing. And in that moment, when our gazes locked, I watched those eyes go wide. He felt it. The mate bond slammed into him the way it had hit me, but worse. So much worse. Because he wasn't prepared. Because he'd built his entire reign on the belief that mate bonds were weakness, that love was a trap, that an alpha king could not afford such vulnerability. I watched realization crash through his expression, watched his jaw tighten, watched his grip on my chin loosen just slightly. But there was something else in his eyes too. Recognition. Not of me as a person. I'd been invisible to him my entire life, just another faceless omega in his territory. Recognition of what I was. Because my eyes were glowing. Not brightly. Not obviously enough for anyone else in the hall to see from a distance. But up close, with his hand on my face, with his full attention locked on me, there was no hiding it. Faint silver light, old power, the kind that shouldn't exist anymore. The kind his father had killed for. The Alpha King's breath caught. His entire body went rigid. For one impossible second, the most powerful wolf in 5 territories looked afraid. Then his expression shuddered, went cold and blank. He released my chin and stepped back, his voice cutting through the hall with absolute authority. "Take her to my personal chambers. Now." No one enters except on my direct command. The hall erupted in whispers. Commander Jack Sterling, the king's head guard, moved forward immediately. "Your Majesty, should we secure her in the cells instead? If she's dangerous." Did I stutter, Commander? The Alpha King's tone could have frozen fire. "No, sir." Jax grabbed my arm, hauling me to my feet. I didn't resist. Couldn't. My mind was spinning, my wolf howling inside me, the bond pulling so hard it hurt. As Jax dragged me toward the side exit, I caught one more glimpse of the Alpha King. He stood perfectly still, his hands clenched at his sides, his eyes fixed on the spot where I'd been kneeling. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that everything was about to change. Because Thorn Ashford had just realized 2 impossible things. First, that fate had chosen the one thing he'd spent his life refusing. A mate bond he couldn't break, couldn't ignore, couldn't control. And second, that his mate was the one creature in this world his father had taught him to fear above all others. The last heir to the bloodline created to destroy kings. The chambers were not what I expected. I'd imagined cold stone, weapons on the walls, something harsh and militant. Instead, the room felt almost ordinary. A large bed with dark blue sheets. Bookshelves crammed with strategy texts and history volumes. A desk covered in maps and documents. A single window overlooking the eastern forest. It felt like a person lived here, not just a king. Jax released my arm once we were inside, but stayed between me and the door. He was tall, built like a wall, with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. I'd seen him around the pack house before. He was fair. Strict but not cruel. The kind of wolf who followed orders but wasn't mindless about it. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a chair near the desk. I sat. My hands were shaking. I pressed them against my thighs, trying to breathe, trying to think past the bond screaming in my chest. Jax watched me carefully. "You're not what I expected." I said nothing. Safer that way. "An Omega refusing orders usually means drugs or mental break," he continued. "But you're neither, are you?" Still nothing. He sighed. "Look, I don't know what just happened down there. But whatever it was, it rattled the king. And nothing rattles the king." He paused. "You're in serious danger, Omega. Not from him. From the others. Word's already spreading that something's wrong with you." That made me look up. "Wrong? You're sent," Jax said bluntly. "It's off. Someone noticed before you were brought to the hall. That's why you were summoned. Elder Garrett wanted you tested." My blood went cold. Elder Garrett Monroe, head of the council. Ancient, powerful, and absolutely devoted to maintaining pack hierarchy. If he wanted me tested, if he suspected anything about my bloodline. The king stopped it, Jax added. "For now. But Garrett won't let this go." Before I could respond, the door opened. The Alpha King entered, and Jax immediately dropped his head in submission. "Your Majesty, leave us." Jax hesitated for only a second before obeying. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Silence filled the room, heavy and dangerous. Thorn stood near the door, studying me. Without the crowd, without the performance of authority, he looked different. Tired. The kind of exhaustion that lived in your bones. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. His jaw was tight with tension. "What's your name?" he asked finally. "Nyla, Your Majesty." "Nyla." He tested the word. "How old are you?" 24. "How long have you been in my territory?" 12 years, Your Majesty." Something flickered in his expression. "Since you were 12. It wasn't a question. He was good at math, good at putting pieces together. He moved closer, and the bond surged. I dug my nails into my palms, fighting the urge to stand, to move toward him, to close the distance between us. "Tell me what you are," he said quietly. "An Omega, Your Majesty. Don't lie to me." His voice dropped to something dangerous. "I felt what happened in that hall. I saw your eyes. I know power when it's staring at me." I met his gaze. "Then you already know what I am." "Say it." "Why?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "So you can have the pleasure of executing me yourself, like your father did to my parents?" The air between us crackled. Thorn's eyes flashed gold, his wolf rising. "Your parents." I shouldn't have said it. Shouldn't have revealed anything. But 12 years of hiding, of swallowing poison, of living in fear, and now this bond burning through my chest. "Silvercrest," I whispered. "My name is Nyla Silvercrest. Last of the bloodline your father spent 20 years hunting. The one he murdered in cold blood because he was terrified of an old prophecy." Thorn went very still. "That's impossible." My father confirmed all the Silvercrests were dead. He missed one. I stood up, tired of being small, tired of cowering. A 12-year-old girl hiding in a cellar while he burned her house down. While he killed her parents for the crime of existing. "If you're truly Silvercrest," Thorn said slowly, "then you know what that means. What your bloodline was created to do. Control alphas. Bind them. Make them submit." The words tasted like ash. "I know the stories. I know why you're afraid." "I'm not afraid." Liar. The bond let me feel it, his fear mixing with fury, with desperate need he didn't want. "You're terrified. Because fate gave you the one thing you can't fight, can't kill, can't control." He closed the distance between us in 2 strides. We were inches apart now, and the bond was screaming, pulling, demanding. "You think I won't kill you?" His voice was rough. "You think this bond changes anything?" I think you're trying to convince yourself of that. I tilted my head back to hold his gaze. I think you've spent your whole life believing mate bonds were weakness. And now you're facing proof that you were wrong. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then Thorn's hand came up, almost gentle, almost tender, brushing my cheek. The touch sent electricity through me, made my wolf purr, made every instinct I had scream yes. I could reject you, he whispered. Break the bond before it fully forms. You could try. It would kill you. Probably. I held his gaze. Isn't that what you want? What your father would have wanted. Something cracked in his expression. Pain, raw and real. My father was a paranoid tyrant who saw threats in shadows. I am not him. Then what are you? Before he could answer, someone pounded on the door. Your Majesty. Jax's voice urgent. Elder Garrett is demanding an audience. He's brought half the council. They're calling for the Omega's immediate testing. Thorn's jaw tightened. His hand dropped from my face. Tell them I'll address the council tomorrow, he called back. Sir, they're insisting. Tomorrow, Commander. Footsteps retreated. Thorn turned back to me, his expression unreadable. You'll stay here tonight. Under guard. Tomorrow, we'll figure out what to do with you. You mean you'll figure out how to kill me quietly? I mean, he said carefully, I'll figure out how to keep you alive. Because despite every logical reason I shouldn't, despite everything I know about your bloodline, about the threat you represent, he stopped, his hands clenching. I can't let them hurt you. The bond flared between us, undeniable. And that's when I heard it. A soft knock. Not at the main door. At the servant's entrance behind the bookshelf. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. Rita. My heart jumped. Rita Hayes, the pack healer, the only person who knew what I was, who'd helped me hide for 12 years. She never came here. Never risked it. Unless something was desperately wrong. Thorn heard it too. Who? My friend, I said quickly. Please. She wouldn't come unless it was important. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. I moved to the bookshelf, found the hidden latch, pulled open the narrow door. Rita stumbled in, her face pale, her hands shaking. She was 45, with gray-streaked hair and kind eyes that had seen too much. Right now, those eyes were filled with terror. Nyla. She grabbed my arms. Someone reported you. Before the throne hall. They told Garrett your scent was wrong, that you might be, she swallowed hard. He's calling for a bloodline test. Tomorrow. In front of the entire pack. The world tilted. A bloodline test. Ancient magic, impossible to fake, impossible to hide from. It would reveal exactly what I was. And then they would kill me. Rita's grip tightened. There's more. Garrett's already contacted the other territories. He's telling them he may have found a silver crust. Nyla, if they test you, if they confirm it. They'll demand execution, Thorn finished, his voice flat. To prevent another bloodline war. Rita turned, seeming to notice him for the first time. She paled further. Your Majesty, Who reported her? Thorn demanded. Rita hesitated. Tell me. Lady Cassandra, Rita whispered. The woman you're supposed to marry. Cassandra Vale. The name hung in the air like poison. I'd seen her around the pack house, of course. Everyone had. She was impossible to miss. Beautiful in that polished, perfect way. Blonde hair always styled. Clothes that cost more than I'd earn in a year. The daughter of the wealthiest pack in the Northern Territories, brought here 6 months ago for a political alliance. The woman Thorn was supposed to marry to secure peace between regions. The woman who now wanted me dead. Thorn's expression went cold. When did she report this? 3 days ago, Rita said. She told Garrett she'd noticed the Omega's scent was strange. Suggested it might be a blood contamination. Garrett took it seriously because she stopped. Because he's been looking for Silvercrests since my father died, Thorn finished bitterly. He thinks they're all still out there, hiding, waiting to strike. Rita nodded. He's obsessed with it. Has been for years. I felt sick. 3 days ago, I'd been serving at a formal dinner. Cassandra had been there, seated beside Thorn, playing the perfect future queen. I'd refilled her wine glass. She'd barely looked at me, but she'd noticed. Somehow, despite all my precautions, despite 12 years of hiding, she'd noticed something wrong with my scent. There's no avoiding the test now, Rita said quietly. Too many wolves know. Too many are demanding answers. Then we give them answers, Thorn said. I looked at him. What? If they want to test an omega, they can test an omega. His eyes met mine, calculating. But not you. Rita frowned. Your Majesty, I don't understand. She's mine now. Thorn's voice carried absolute authority. As of this moment, Nyla is under my personal protection. My servant. My responsibility. The words hit me like a slap. Your servant. It's the only way. He turned to face me fully. If I claim you as part of my household, Garrett can't touch you without my permission. The bloodline test requires consent of the wolf's alpha. I become your alpha. I withhold consent. Rita's eyes widened. That could work. If you claim her publicly. No. I stepped back. Absolutely not. Thorn raised an eyebrow. You'd rather face the test? Rather let them discover what you are and execute you in front of the entire pack. I'd rather not be owned. You won't be owned. You'll be protected. By being your property? The words came out harsh. By pretending to be grateful while you control every aspect of my life? That's not protection. That's just a prettier cage. Something flickered in his expression. Respect, maybe. Or frustration. Then what do you suggest? He asked quietly. I had no answer. Because he was right. There was no other way. No escape route I could see. Rita touched my arm gently. Nyla, you've survived this long by being smart. Be smart now. I wanted to scream. Wanted to run. Wanted to let my power loose and burn this whole place down. Instead, I closed my eyes and breathed. Fine, I whispered. Claim me. But understand something, Your Majesty. The bond between us? It goes both ways. You might think you're protecting me, but I could destroy you just as easily. I know, Thorn said. And there was something in his voice, something raw. Believe me, I know. The announcement came at dawn. The entire pack gathered in the main courtyard. Hundreds of wolves, all curious, all whispering. Elder Garrett stood at the front with the council, his expression thunderous. Cassandra was beside him, looking concerned and innocent. Thorn stood on the raised platform, and I knelt beside him, hating every second of it. The Omega known as Nyla has been accused of blood contamination, Thorn announced, his voice carrying across the crowd. A serious charge. One that normally demands immediate testing. Murmurs rippled through the pack. However, Thorn continued, as of this moment, I claim this Omega as part of my personal household. She serves me directly. Her actions, her scent, her very existence are now my responsibility. Garrett stepped forward. Your Majesty, with respect, this is highly irregular. Are you questioning my authority, Elder? Garrett's joy tightened. No, Your Majesty. But the law is clear. When contamination is suspected, testing must be performed for the safety of the pack. And the law is also clear, Thorn shot back, that no wolf under direct alpha protection can be tested without that alpha's consent. I do not give my consent. Why not? Cassandra's voice rang out, sweet and poisonous. If this Omega is innocent, surely she has nothing to fear from a simple test? She was good, making it sound reasonable, making Thorn look suspicious. The crowd murmured agreement. Thorn's hand clenched. I could feel his frustration through the bond, his awareness that he was trapped. Then an idea hit me. Dangerous. Possibly stupid. But it might work. I stood up slowly. Every eye turned to me. Lady Cassandra is right, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I have nothing to fear from a test. But I wonder, I turned to face her directly. Why Lady Cassandra is so interested in a lowly Omega's bloodline. Unless she has reasons to want me gone. Cassandra's perfect smile didn't waver. I only want to ensure the pack's safety. Of course. I kept my tone respectful, but let doubt creep in. It's just curious timing. 3 days ago, you reported me. The same day I accidentally spilled wine near your seat at dinner. The same day I overheard you arguing with the Alpha King about. Enough. Thorn cut me off, but not before the seed was planted. The crowd was watching Cassandra now, questioning. She'd made a mistake by speaking up, by drawing attention to herself. Garrett cleared his throat. Regardless of motivation, the concern stands. Your Majesty, I must formally request. Request denied, Thorn said flatly. This matter is closed. Nyla serves my household now. Anyone who has concerns about her can bring them to me directly. His eyes swept the crowd. Is that understood? Silence. Then, slowly, wolves began to nod. All except Garrett. His face was stone. As you command, Your Majesty. But I saw the look in his eyes. This wasn't over. That night, Thorn's chambers felt different. Smaller. The air between us charged with things unsaid. That was reckless, he said, pouring 2 glasses of water. Provoking Cassandra. She provoked first. She's the daughter of the most powerful alpha in the north. You're nothing, I supplied. No one. You're a Silvercrest, he said quietly, which makes you the most dangerous wolf in this territory. I took the water glass he offered. Our fingers brushed. The bond flared. We both pulled back. I need to understand something, Thorn said, moving to the window. This bond between us. How does it work? What does it do? I hesitated. Rita had explained it to me years ago, but saying it out loud to him felt like admitting to having a weapon pointed at his head. It's not like normal mate bonds, I said finally. Normal bonds are equal. A connection between 2 wolves. But Silvercrest bonds. I swallowed. They're designed to give us control. Over alphas specifically. Over their power, their commands, their will. Thorn's shoulders tensed. So you could make me do anything. Theoretically. Have you tried? No. He turned to face me. Why not? Because I'm not a monster, I said sharply. Despite what your father believed. Despite what Garrett believes. I don't want to control anyone. I just want to survive. For a long moment, he studied me. Then something shifted in his expression. The bond, he said slowly. It's already forming, isn't it? I can feel you. Your emotions. Your fear. I nodded. It goes both ways. I can feel you too. What do you feel right now? I closed my eyes. Opened myself to the bond. Confusion, I whispered. Anger. At yourself more than me. You're furious that fate chose this. That you can't control it. I opened my eyes. And fear. You're afraid of what I could do to you. Afraid of what loving me might cost. His jaw clenched. I don't love you. Not yet, I agreed. But you will. That's how mate bonds work. Eventually, you won't have a choice. There's always a choice. Before I could respond, something crashed outside. Thorn moved to the window instantly, his body tense. I followed. Below, in the courtyard, smoke was rising. And wolves were screaming. The fire had started in the Omega quarters. By the time we reached the courtyard, half the building was engulfed in flames. Wolves ran in every direction, some carrying buckets of water, others dragging injured pack members to safety. The smell of smoke and burnt flesh filled the air. Rita was there, treating burns, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. Thorn immediately took command. Jax, get everyone back. Form a water line from the well. Someone find out how this started. I moved toward Rita without thinking. What can I do? She thrust bandages at me. Hold pressure on wounds. Keep them calm. For the next hour, I worked alongside her. My hands were covered in blood and ash. A young Omega girl, maybe 16, clung to my arm while Rita treated the burns on her legs. She kept crying, asking about her roommate who hadn't made it out. I held her and lied. Told her everything would be fine. By the time the fire was out, 3 wolves were dead. 7 more critically injured. And everyone was asking the same question. How did it start? Thorn stood in the center of the ruined building, examining the remains. Jax was beside him, along with Elder Garrett and several council members. I stayed back, helping Rita pack up medical supplies. It wasn't an accident, Rita whispered to me. I was in there 2 hours ago. Everything was fine. No candles lit. No fires burning. Then what? Found something, Your Majesty. Jax emerged from the rubble holding a metal container. He opened it carefully, and even from a distance, I could smell it. Accelerant. Someone had used accelerant to start the fire. The crowd went silent. Garrett's voice cut through the stillness. This was deliberate. Someone attacked the Omega quarters. Murmurs of fear and anger rippled through the pack. Thorn's expression was stone. Who had access to this building tonight? Everyone, Your Majesty, Jax said grimly. The Omega quarters aren't locked. Anyone could have entered. Then we question everyone. Starting with Thorn's eyes swept the crowd and landed on someone near the back. Cassandra. She stood with several other high-ranking wolves, her face pale, her dress covered in ash like she'd been helping with the rescue. But there was something in her expression. Something that made my skin crawl. Satisfaction, hidden beneath concern. Lady Cassandra, Thorn called out. You were near the Omega quarters earlier this evening. Did you see anything unusual? She stepped forward gracefully. I was visiting the kitchens, Your Majesty, to discuss tomorrow's menu. I saw nothing out of the ordinary. What time was this? Around sunset. Perhaps 2 hours before the fire started. She looked appropriately distressed. It's terrible. Those poor Omegas. Who would do such a thing? I watched her carefully. The way she held herself. The way her eyes flickered briefly to me before returning to Thorn. She was lying. I didn't know how I knew. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the bond sharpening my senses. But every part of me screamed that she was involved. We'll investigate thoroughly, Thorn said. Until we find who's responsible, security will be doubled. No one enters or leaves pack grounds without authorization. Garrett stepped forward. Your Majesty, if I may. 3 Omegas died tonight. All of them were housed in the same building as the Omega you claimed this morning. He paused meaningfully. Perhaps someone is sending a message. The implication was clear. This was my fault. My presence had brought danger to the pack. Thorn's jaw tightened. Or perhaps someone wants us to think that, Elder. Either way, Nyla stays under my protection. In my quarters. Where I can ensure her safety. How convenient, Garrett said coldly. The king claims an Omega under suspicious circumstances, refuses testing, and now keeps her in his personal chambers. Forgive me, Your Majesty, but this appears highly inappropriate. Are you questioning my judgment? I'm questioning your objectivity. Garrett's eyes were hard. You're young, Your Majesty. Perhaps you don't remember the last time a Silvercrest lived among us. The chaos they caused. The alphas they controlled and destroyed. Your own father. My father, Thorn interrupted, his voice dangerous, was paranoid and brutal. He saw threats everywhere. Murdered entire families based on prophecies and fear. I will not repeat his mistakes. Even if it costs pack lives? The question hung in the air like a blade. Before Thorn could answer, I stepped forward. Elder Garrett, if I may speak. Every eye turned to me. Thorn looked like he wanted to stop me, but the bond let me feel his curiosity. He wanted to see what I'd say. You're right, I said quietly. 3 Omegas died tonight. In my building. It does seem like a message. But a message about what? I'm nobody. A servant. Why would anyone target me specifically? Garrett's expression was unreadable. Perhaps you're not as insignificant as you claim. Or perhaps, I said carefully, someone wants you to think I'm significant. Someone who benefits from discord between the king and his council. Someone who wants to drive a wedge in pack unity. I didn't look at Cassandra. Didn't have to. Several council members were already glancing her direction, thinking. Garrett's eyes narrowed. Are you accusing someone, Omega? I'm saying we should consider all possibilities, Elder. Not just the ones that confirm our existing fears. It was a gamble. Speaking to a council elder like an equal. But Thorn had claimed me. That gave me some protection. Garrett stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned to Thorn. Your servant is remarkably articulate for an Omega, Your Majesty. One might wonder what else she's hiding. One might wonder many things, Thorn replied smoothly. But right now, I'm more concerned with finding the arsonist. Jax, I want every wolf who had access to that building questioned. Start with the kitchen staff, work your way up. Yes, sir. As the crowd began to disperse, I felt eyes on me. Cassandra was watching from across the courtyard. When our gazes met, she smiled. It was the smile of someone who'd already won. Back in Thorn's chambers, the silence was thick. You shouldn't have spoken to Garrett like that, Thorn said finally. He's looking for reasons to move against you. He was already moving against me. I just redirected his attention to Cassandra, who is already suspicious of you, who now has even more reason to want you gone. I turned to face him. She started that fire. You don't know that. I know. The same way you know. You feel it too, don't you? Through the bond. Thorn's expression darkened. What I feel doesn't matter. What I can prove matters. And right now, I have no proof. Then we find some. He raised an eyebrow. You claimed me. Made me your responsibility. That means we're in this together now, whether you like it or not. For a moment, I thought he'd argue. Instead, he moved to his desk and pulled out a map. If Cassandra is behind this, she's not working alone. She's too smart for that. Too careful. I moved closer to look at the map. It showed the entire pack territory with various buildings marked. What are you thinking? I'm thinking she has access to places most wolves don't. Money. Connections. If she wanted to cause trouble, she'd need help from someone with authority. He tapped a section of the map. The Omega quarters weren't locked, but the storage shed where accelerants are kept is. Only certain wolves have keys. Who? Council members. Senior guards. And he stopped. And what? And potential queens. As part of her integration into pack leadership, Cassandra was given access to most facilities 6 months ago. My stomach dropped. So she could have taken the accelerant herself. No accomplice needed. Not for the theft. But for the fire itself, she'd need an alibi. Someone to place her somewhere else when it started. I thought back to the courtyard. To Cassandra's ash-covered dress. She was helping with the rescue. Very publicly. Very visibly. Which means she set the fire earlier and waited. Thorn's jaw clenched. But proving it is another matter entirely. She's the daughter of Alpha Marcus Vale. Accusing her without solid evidence would start a war between territories. What if we had evidence? Like what? I hesitated, then pulled up my sleeve, showing him the faint scars on my wrist. Old burns from the iron and ash I used to suppress my power. I can track her. Not physically. But if she touched that accelerant container, if her scent is on it, my bloodline can sense things others can't. Guilt. Fear. Lies. It's part of what made Silvercrests good at controlling alphas. We could read them. See through their deceptions. Thorn stared at my scars. That's how you've hidden all these years. You've been burning yourself. Small price for survival. It's torture. It's necessary. I pulled my sleeve back down. But right now, I can use what I am. Let me examine that container. Let me try to sense Cassandra's involvement. And if you can, then we set a trap. Make her think she's gotten away with it. Give her confidence to try again. And next time, we catch her in the act. Thorn was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. If we do this, if we work together like this, the bond will strengthen. You understand that, don't you? The more we trust each other, the deeper the connection becomes. I know. Until eventually, I won't be able to resist it. Won't be able to fight what I feel for you. I met his eyes. Would that be so terrible? He looked at me like I'd asked him to jump off a cliff. Yes, because the moment I care about you more than the crown, more than the pack, I become exactly what my father warned me about. Weak, compromised, dangerous. Or maybe I said quietly, you become something better than what your father was. Someone who can care and still be strong. Someone who doesn't have to choose between love and leadership. That's naive. That's hope. We stood there, inches apart, the bond humming between us. Then Thorn turned away. Tomorrow. We'll examine the evidence tomorrow. Tonight, you sleep in the side chamber. I'll take the main room. Running away won't break the bond. No, he agreed. But it might slow it down long enough for me to figure out how to keep us both alive. He left before I could respond. I stood alone in his chambers, surrounded by his scent, feeling the bond ache in my chest. Outside, somewhere in the darkness, Cassandra was planning her next move. And I realized with cold certainty that the fire was just the beginning. The accelerant container sat on Thorn's desk like an accusation. Jax had brought it at dawn, along with a list of every wolf who had access to the storage shed. 37 names. Cassandra's was near the top. I stood over it, my hands hovering above the metal, not quite touching. Thorn watched from across the room, his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. How does this work? He asked. I'm not sure, I admitted. Rita told me about it years ago. Said Silvercrests could read objects, sense the intentions of whoever touched them last. But I've never tried. I've spent 12 years suppressing everything, not using it. If it doesn't work, then we find another way. I took a breath and placed my palms on the container. The sensation hit immediately. Cold metal. The lingering smell of accelerant. And underneath, buried in the molecular memory of the object itself, I felt them. Impressions. Emotions. Like fingerprints made of feeling. Fear. Someone had been afraid when they touched this. Hands shaking. Heart racing. But not guilt. The person who'd taken this container had been terrified, yes, but not of being caught. Of something else. Someone else. I pushed deeper, trying to see more, and pain lanced through my skull. My vision blurred. The room spun. Strong hands caught me before I fell. Thorn held me steady, his grip firm. That's enough. No, I almost had it. You're bleeding. He touched my nose gently. His fingers came away red. I hadn't even felt it start. The power drain was worse than I'd expected. 12 years of suppression had made me weak in ways I didn't fully understand. Thorn guided me to a chair. What did you see? Someone scared. But not Cassandra. She wouldn't be afraid. This felt different. Younger. Someone being forced. Forced by whom? I don't know. I wasn't strong enough to. A knock at the door interrupted us. Jax entered without waiting for permission, his face grim. Your Majesty, Elder Garrett is calling an emergency council session. He's demanding your presence immediately. Thorn's jaw tightened. On what grounds? He didn't say, sir. But he has the other elders with him. All of them. And they've invoked ancient law. You have to attend. I'd never seen Thorn look worried before. But in that moment, through the bond, I felt his fear spike. What's ancient law? I asked. A provision, Thorn said slowly, that allows the Council to override the Alpha King's authority in matters of pack safety. It requires unanimous elder agreement and hasn't been used in over a century. He looked at Jax. He is all 5? Yes, sir. Then we're out of time. Thorn turned to me. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me or Jax. What's happening? Garrett's making his move. Thorn headed for the door. Whatever happens in that council chamber, remember, you're under my protection. They can't touch you without going through me first. He left before I could argue. I stood in the empty chambers, the bond pulling tight with distance, and knew with absolute certainty that something terrible was about to happen. I didn't stay in the room. Stupid, maybe. But I couldn't just sit there while Thorn walked into an ambush. I slipped out through the servants' entrance, the same one Rita used, and made my way through the narrow passages that ran behind the main halls. Every pack house had them. Routes for Omegas and servants to move unseen, to serve without being noticed. I'd learned them all in 12 years. The council chamber was in the oldest part of the building, a circular room with high windows and stone walls that amplified sound. I found a ventilation grate near the ceiling and pressed myself against it, listening. Thorn's voice carried clearly. This is highly irregular, Elder Garrett. The council hasn't invoked ancient law since. Since we had a genuine threat to pack survival, Garrett interrupted. Which is exactly what we have now. You're being dramatic. Am I? Garrett's voice hardened. 3 Omegas dead. Our future queen publicly humiliated. And you, your majesty, are harboring a wolf with questionable bloodline in your personal chambers. Tell me how this doesn't qualify as a crisis. The Omega is under investigation. That's all. No, your majesty. That's not all. Papers rustled. I have here a testimony from Lady Cassandra. She claims that 2 nights ago, she saw the Omega, your servant, moving through the pack house alone, near the storage shed where the accelerant was kept. My blood went cold. She was framing me. One witness isn't proof, Thorne said, but I heard the tension in his voice. I have more than one witness. Garrett sounded triumphant. 3 kitchen staff saw her as well. All testify she was near that shed around sunset. The same time the accelerant was taken. They're lying. Are they? Or are you simply refusing to see the truth because of an inappropriate attachment? Silence. Heavy and dangerous. What are you implying, Elder? I'm implying that you've been compromised, Your Majesty. That this Omega has somehow influenced you. Made you protective of her despite all evidence pointing to her guilt. That's absurd. Is it? Because there's only one bloodline with the power to influence an alpha's judgment. To make him act against his own interests. To bind him through means he can't resist. No, he couldn't know. He couldn't. I'm saying it plainly now, Garrett continued. The Omega you're protecting is a Silvercrest. And she's already begun to control you. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Thorne said nothing. Through the bond, I felt his fury, his desperation to deny it, his realization that denial would sound like a lie. You have no proof, Thorne said finally. I have eyes, Your Majesty. I have 12 years of watching that girl move through this pack like a ghost. I have records of a family named Reeves who appeared in our territory exactly 12 years ago, right after your father executed the last known Silvercrests. I have her age, her timeline, her suspicious behavior. And now I have witnesses placing her at the scene of a crime that killed 3 of our own. Circumstantial evidence. Then let her take the bloodline test. Prove me wrong. Prove to this council and this pack that she's innocent. Thorne's voice dropped to something deadly. I already told you. She's under my protection. Testing requires my consent. And if we override your protection, ancient law gives us that power when the Alpha King is compromised. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. Garrett's voice carried absolute certainty. I call for a council vote. All those in favor of removing the Alpha King's protection from the Omega known as Nyla Reeves and subjecting her to immediate bloodline testing. My heart stopped. One by one, I heard the elders vote. I. For voices. They needed 5 for unanimous agreement. Elder Patricia? Garrett prompted. A woman's voice, older, uncertain. This is extreme, Garrett. The girl has served quietly for years. Perhaps she's killed 3 wolves. How many more before you act? A long pause. Then, quietly, unanimous. The bond flooded with Thorne's rage, his helplessness. This is a mistake. No, Your Majesty. This is justice. Guards, bring the Omega to the hall. We conduct the test at noon before the entire pack. Footsteps. Multiple sets. Heading for the exit. Coming for me. I scrambled back from the grate, my mind racing. I had maybe minutes before they reached Thorne's chambers. Minutes to decide. Run or fight. Hide or reveal. I made it back to the chambers just as the pounding started on the main door. Open in the name of the council. Thorne stood in the center of the room. He must have taken a faster route. His eyes met mine, and I saw everything in that look. Apology. Fury. Desperate calculation. The window, he said quietly. 2nd floor drop. You can make it to the forest if you run now. They'll hunt me. Better hunted than dead. The pounding intensified. The door was solid, but it wouldn't hold forever. I can't run anymore, I whispered. I'm tired of running. Nyla, if I run, they'll say it proves I'm guilty. They'll come after me with everything. Hunt me like an animal. I'll spend the rest of my life hiding, alone, afraid. I moved closer to him. Or I can face this. Take the test. Show them what I am. They'll kill you. Maybe. Or maybe it's time the pack learned the truth. I held his gaze. About Silvercrests. About what we really are. About the lies they've been told. You don't understand what you're saying. The moment they confirm it, the moment the test shows Silvercrest blood. I know. I touched his hand. The bond flared between us. But at least I'll die as myself. Not as some fake identity. Not hiding anymore. Thorn's fingers tightened around mine. I can't protect you if you do this. I know. The council has overridden my authority. If the test is positive, ancient law demands immediate execution. I won't be able to stop it. I know. He pulled me close, sudden and fierce. His forehead pressed against mine. This is insane. Probably. I could order you to run. Use my alpha command. It wouldn't work. Not on me. You know that. Through the bond, I felt his anguish. His realization that I was right. That commands didn't work on Silvercrests the way they did on other wolves. That he was already losing the battle against caring about me. The doors splintered. Guards poured in. Jax led them, his face apologetic but determined. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Council orders. Thorn released me slowly, his hands lingering. If you survive this, he said quietly, so only I could hear, I'm going to be very angry with you. I'll look forward to it. The guards surrounded me. Jax placed silver cuffs on my wrists. They burned, making me gasp, but I didn't fight. As they led me from the room, I looked back once. Thorn stood alone in his chambers, his hands clenched at his sides, his eyes locked on mine. And through the bond, I felt his fear. Not for himself. For me. The main hall was packed. Every wolf in the territory had come to witness the bloodline test. They filled the space wall to wall, their voices a constant buzz of speculation and judgment. I could feel their eyes on me as the guards dragged me to the center, could smell their mixture of fear and excitement. They wanted a show. They were going to get one. The silver cuffs burned my wrists, making it hard to think, hard to breathe. Silver suppressed wolf abilities, made us weak and vulnerable. For a Silvercrest, it was worse. It felt like my power was being slowly crushed, suffocated. Elder Garrett stood on the raised platform, looking down at me with something between vindication and genuine concern. Beside him stood the other 4 elders, their faces grave. And next to them, perfectly positioned where everyone could see her, was Cassandra. She looked devastated. Heartbroken. Like she truly regretted what was happening. It was a perfect performance. Thorn stood off to the side, technically present but stripped of authority. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched. Through the bond, I felt his rage simmering, looking for any opportunity to intervene. There wasn't one. Garrett raised his hands, and the hall fell silent. We're gathered for a bloodline test, he announced. A sacred ritual, unchanged for thousands of years. The Omega Nyla Reeves stands accused of carrying Silvercrest blood. Blood that was deemed too dangerous to exist. Blood that every Alpha King for the past 3 centuries has sworn to eliminate. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The test is simple, Garrett continued. Ancient magic bound into this blade. He held up a ceremonial knife, the metal etched with symbols I recognized from my mother's old books. 1 drop of blood will reveal the truth. If she is innocent, the blade will remain unchanged. If she carries the forbidden bloodline. He didn't finish. Didn't have to. Everyone knew what happened to Silvercrests. A female elder stepped forward, Patricia, the one who'd been hesitant to vote. She was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes that couldn't quite meet mine. Give me your hand, she said quietly. I extended my cuffed wrists. The silver burned worse where it touched bare skin. Patricia took the knife from Garrett and pressed the tip to my palm. 1 quick slice. Blood welled up, dark red and ordinary. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the blade began to glow. Silver light, old and powerful, spreading from the blood along the etched symbols. The same color my eyes had been when Thorn first forced me to look at him. The hall erupted in shocked gasps and angry shouts. "Silvercrest," Garrett said, his voice cutting through the noise. "The test is positive. The Omega is confirmed as carrying the forbidden bloodline." I watched the crowd turn. Watched fear replace curiosity. Watched wolves who'd ignored me for 12 years suddenly look at me like I was a monster about to devour them. According to ancient law, Garrett continued, Silvercrests are to be executed immediately upon discovery. No trial. No appeal. Their existence is itself a crime against pack safety. No. Thorn's voice rang out. He stepped forward despite the council's authority. I invoke right of challenge. Garrett's eyes narrowed. Your Majesty, you have no authority here. I have every authority. Right of challenge is older than council law. Older than bloodline tests. Any wolf can challenge on behalf of another if they believe the sentence is unjust. And who would you challenge, Your Majesty? The entire council? If necessary. The threat hung in the air. A fight between the Alpha King and the council would tear the pack apart. Garrett studied Thorn for a long moment. Then he smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Very well. If you wish to challenge for her life, you must prove she's not a threat. Prove that a Silvercrest can exist without destroying everything around her. He gestured to me. Prove she hasn't already begun to control you through the mate bond. Thorn went very still. How did you? I've been alive a long time, Your Majesty. I know what a mate bond looks like. I know how they form. And I know that you, who have spent your entire reign refusing to even consider a mate, suddenly became protective of this specific Omega the moment you were in close proximity. Garrett's voice hardened. She's already binding you. Making you weak. Making you choose her over your pack. That's not true. Then prove it. Reject her. Here. Now. Break the mate bond in front of everyone and show us you're still capable of making rational decisions. The crowd went silent. Through the bond, I felt Thorn's panic. Mate bond rejection was brutal. For the one being rejected, it was agony. Physical and emotional torture that could last for days. Many wolves didn't survive it. For a Silvercrest, connected to an alpha through a blood bond, it would be exponentially worse. It might kill me outright. And Garrett knew it. Reject her, Garrett pressed, or admit that she's already controlling you. That everything you've done to protect her has been compulsion, not choice. Thorn looked at me. Our eyes met across the distance. I knew what he was thinking. Knew what he had to do. Do it, I said quietly. Loud enough for him to hear. Save yourself. Nyla. I mean it. I'm dead anyway. Ancient law, remember? But you can still lead this pack. Still be the king they need. Just. My voice cracked. Just make it quick. Something broke in his expression. Then he turned to face Garrett, and his voice was ice. I refuse. Then you condemn yourself as compromised. I refuse, Thorn repeated louder, because she's not controlling me. Because every decision I've made has been my own. Because he stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Because she's my mate. And I won't break that bond. Not for you. Not for this council. Not for anyone. The hall exploded in chaos. Garrett's face twisted with fury and something else. Triumph. Then you leave me no choice. By your own admission, you're compromised. Under ancient law, when an Alpha King is deemed unfit, the council can invoke temporary removal until a new king is chosen, a voice interrupted from the back of the hall. Everyone turned. A man walked through the crowd, wolves parting before him. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and eyes that looked eerily familiar. My breath stopped. Owen, I whispered. My brother. Who I'd believed dead for 12 years. Who I'd grieved for, cried over, mourned. He walked right up to the platform, his eyes fixed on Garrett. You want to remove Thorn for being compromised? Fine. But that means the throne is open. Which means challenges are legal. Garrett frowned. Who are you? Owen Reeves. Formerly Owen Silvercrest. He smiled, sharp and dangerous. The Omega's brother. And I'm here to challenge for the throne. The world tilted. Owen turned to look at me, and there was nothing brotherly in his eyes. Just cold calculation. Hello, sister. Miss me? Before I could respond, before I could process what was happening, Rita appeared from the crowd. She was pale, shaking, but she pushed through to reach me. Nyla, she gasped. I need to tell you something. About your brother. About why he's really here. Rita, what? He's been planning this for years. Ever since he survived the attack that killed your parents. He didn't come to find you. He didn't come to save you. Her voice broke. He came to use you. To use your power to take control of every pack in the territory. He's not here to help. He's here to start a war. Owen laughed, the sound echoing through the hall. Rita always was too sentimental. Yes, I'm here to use Nyla. Because that's what silver crests are for. We don't hide. We don't suppress our gifts. We rule. He turned to address the entire hall. For centuries, alphas have told you that silver crests are monsters. That we're too dangerous to live. But the truth? We're evolution. We're the next step. And my sister is the key to transforming this entire pack structure. Oh, and no, I tried to move, but the guards held me firm. I've spent 12 years building a network. Rebels who see the truth. Who understand that alpha dominance is a disease, not a gift. His eyes blazed with fanaticism. With Nyla's power, we can break every alpha in this territory. We can rebuild from scratch. Create true equality. By enslaving alphas? Thorn's voice was deadly quiet. By using Silvercrest bonds to force submission? That's not equality. That's tyranny. Call it what you want. It's happening. Owen gestured, and wolves stepped forward from the crowd. 20, 30, more. All wearing identical marks on their wrists. His rebels. Hidden among the pack all along. You're outnumbered, Owen said calmly. Outmaneuvered. And your precious king is compromised. Which means by ancient law, I can challenge him for the throne. If I win, I become Alpha King. And Nyla becomes my weapon. I'll never help you, I spat. You don't have a choice, sister. Owen's smile was poison. Silvercrests can bind alphas. But they can also be bound. By their own blood. By family. He pulled out a pendant, old silver etched with symbols. My mother's pendant. The one she'd been wearing when she died. Where did you get that? From her body. Before they burned her. Owen held it up. Blood magic works both ways. With this, I can compel you. Make you use your power however I want. The world was spinning. My own brother. Planning to enslave me. Planning to use me as a weapon just like everyone else feared. Rita had been right. This was never about saving me. This was about power. Owen turned to Thorn. So here's how this works. I challenge you for the throne. We fight. When I win, I take your crown, your territory, and your mate. And then we begin the real work of tearing down everything alphas have built. Thorn's eyes flashed gold. If you want the throne, you'll have to kill me first. Oh, I intend to. Owen began to shift, his bones cracking, his wolf emerging. And I realized with horror that Garrett wasn't trying to stop any of this. He was letting it happen. Letting them fight. Letting chaos consume the pack. Because in the end, whether Thorn won or Owen won, I was still going to die. The silver cuffs burned. The crowd pressed closer. My brother's wolf snarled. And through the bond, I felt Thorn's determination to protect me, even if it cost him everything. This was it. Rock bottom. No way out. The two wolves circled each other in the center of the hall. Thorn had shifted fast, his massive black wolf a picture of controlled violence. Owen's wolf was smaller but quick, silver gray with ice blue eyes that tracked every movement. The crowd had pressed back, forming a ring. No one intervened. Challenge law was absolute. Once initiated, it could only end one way. With death. I knelt on the stone floor, silver cuffs burning, watching the two most important wolves in my life prepare to kill each other. One I'd loved as family. One I was beginning to love as something more. and I couldn't do anything to stop it. Owen struck first. Fast and vicious, going for Thorn's throat. Thorn dodged, countered with a slash that opened Owen's shoulder. Blood splattered on stone. They separated, circling again. "Your Majesty fights well," Garrett observed from the platform. He sounded almost bored. "But he's distracted. The mate bond pulls at him. Makes him sloppy." Patricia frowned. "Elder Garrett, perhaps we should stop this." "Why?" "One way or another, we solve our problem. If the king wins, he's proven he can overcome Silvercrest influence. If the rebel wins, we simply execute him afterward for treason. Either way, the Omega dies." Rita gripped my shoulder from behind. She'd stayed close despite the danger. "Nyla, listen to me. The pendant Owen has, it's powerful, but it's not unbreakable. Blood magic requires consent. Deep down, in your soul, you have to accept the binding." "What good does that do?" "He's going to force me anyway." "No. He can compel your actions, but he can't compel your will. And will is everything for Silvercrests." She leaned closer. "Your mother told me something once. She said the greatest power of your bloodline wasn't controlling others. It was choosing not to." In the ring, Owen landed a brutal hit. Thorn's wolf yelped, stumbled. Blood poured from a gash along his ribs. The bond flared with his pain. I felt it like my own wound, sharp and burning. "I have to help him," I gasped. "You can't. The silver." "I don't care about the silver." I closed my eyes, reaching deep inside myself. Past the pain. Past the fear. Down to the place where I'd buried my power for 12 years. It was still there. Waiting. Hungry. I'd spent so long suppressing it, burning it away, choking it down. But power like mine didn't die. It just slept. Time to wake it up. I pulled at the suppression, unraveling the careful barriers I'd built. It hurt. Felt like ripping open old scars. But slowly, gradually, I felt my true strength beginning to rise. The silver cuffs burned hotter, reacting to the power building inside me. My skin blistered. The smell of burning flesh filled my nostrils. "Nyla, stop," Rita begged. "You'll kill yourself. Better than watching him die." In the ring, Owen had Thorn pinned. His jaws closed around Thorn's throat, not quite biting. Not yet. Making a point. Owen shifted back to human, keeping his hand on Thorn's neck. "Yield," he demanded. "Acknowledge me as the stronger alpha." Thorn's wolf snarled defiance. "Then die knowing your mate watches." Owen's grip tightened. The bond screamed. I felt Thorn's determination to keep fighting, his refusal to submit, his absolute certainty that if he yielded, Owen would use me as a weapon to destroy everything. He was choosing the pack over his own life, over our bond, over me. And I realized something in that moment, something fundamental about who Thorn was. He wasn't refusing the mate bond because he was cold or heartless. He was refusing it because he couldn't bear to put one person above thousands. Couldn't bear to be the kind of king who chose love over duty. Just like my parents had been. Just like the Silvercrests who came before. We were both trapped by the same fear. That loving someone meant failing everyone else. But maybe that was the lie. Maybe the greatest leaders weren't the ones who chose duty over love. Maybe they were the ones brave enough to choose both. My power broke free. The silver cuffs shattered. Pieces scattered across the floor, smoking. My hands glowed with that old silver light, the same color as the bloodline test blade. The same color as my ancestors' power when they'd forged the first alpha bonds. The entire hall gasped. Owen's head snapped toward me. "Impossible. The silver should have held you." "Silver suppresses wolf abilities," I said, standing slowly. My voice echoed with power, layered with something ancient. "But I'm not just a wolf. I'm a Silvercrest. And we were never meant to be controlled." I walked toward the ring. Guards tried to grab me, but they couldn't touch me. My power formed a barrier, pushing them back gently but firmly. Garrett rose from his seat. "Stop her. She's manifesting." "Let her come," Owen said, releasing Thorn. He shifted back to human, holding up the pendant. This is what I wanted anyway. Nyla, come here. Now. The compulsion hit like a sledgehammer. Blood magic, amplified by our family connection. Every instinct I had screamed to obey, to walk to him, to submit. But Rita's words echoed in my mind. He can compel your actions, but not your will. I took another step, then another, moving toward Owen, but not because he commanded it. Because I chose to. There's a difference. A crucial one. I stopped just outside the ring. Thorn's wolf struggled to his feet, blood dripping from multiple wounds. Through the bond, I felt his panic, his desperate need to protect me. Stand down, I told him gently. Trust me. Owen smiled triumphantly. Smart choice, sister. Now, use your power. Bind every alpha in this hall. Starting with him. He pointed at Thorn. The pendant pulsed, sending compulsion through my blood. Use your power. Bind him. Control him. I reached out with my Silvercrest gift. Felt it unfurl like wings I'd forgotten I had. Felt it reach toward Thorn, toward the mate bond already connecting us. So easy. I could feel how easy it would be to snap that bond into complete control. To make him obey. To take away his choice, his will, his very self. Make him mine in every terrible way. Do it, Owen commanded. The pendant burned hot against his chest. I looked at Thorn. Our eyes met. And through the bond, I showed him everything. My fear. My love. My absolute refusal to become what everyone expected. Then I spoke, and my voice carried to every corner of the hall. You're right, Owen. Silvercrests were created to bind alphas. To control them. To force submission. I turned to face him. But you're wrong about why. We weren't created to rule. We were created to protect. To stop alphas from destroying themselves and everyone around them. Semantics. Now bind him. No. The word rang with power. Because the greatest protection I can offer isn't control. It's choice. The freedom to choose love over fear. Partnership over domination. I turned back to Thorn. Reached out not to control, but to offer. The bond between us can go two ways, I said softly. I can bind you, force you to submit, make you powerless. Or, I took a breath. Or you can accept it willingly. Choose to be bound not by compulsion, but by trust. Let me share your power instead of taking it. Let me stand beside you instead of above you. That's not how Silvercrest bonds work, Owen snarled. Maybe that's because no one ever tried it differently. I kept my eyes on Thorn. What do you say, Your Majesty? Will you let me try? Thorn shifted back to human. He stood bleeding, exhausted, facing the choice I was offering. The bond hummed between us, waiting. If I accept, he said slowly, what happens? I don't know. This has never been done before. But I hope it means we share strength instead of one taking from the other. It means trust instead of control. And if you're wrong, if the bond still forces submission, then I'll spend every day fighting it. Fighting to give you back your choice. Fighting to be your partner, not your master. Silence filled the hall. Then Thorn smiled. It was small, exhausted, but real. For someone who's spent 12 years hiding, he said, you're remarkably terrible at doing what you're told. Is that a yes? It's a leap of faith. He held out his hand. Let's find out if Silvercrests can evolve. I took his hand. The moment our skin touched, the bond exploded. But it wasn't painful. Wasn't forceful. It felt like coming home. Power flowed between us, yes. Mine into him, his into me. But it wasn't one-directional. Wasn't domination. It was exchange. Balance. Partnership. I felt his strength become mine. Felt my power become his. Felt us become something new. Something equal. The silver light around my hands spread to him, and his eyes began to glow the same color. Not gold like an alpha's. Not silver like a Silvercrest's. Both. Owen stared, his face twisting with rage. No, that's impossible. You can't just change what the bond is. Watch me. The pendant in his hand cracked. The blood magic he'd been using to compel me shattered like glass. Because I'd found something stronger than family blood. I'd found chosen bond. Willing trust. And it broke every chain Owen had tried to forge. He screamed, throwing the ruined pendant aside. You've ruined everything. We could have changed the world. Could have torn down the Alpha system. And you're choosing to prop it up by bonding with a king. I'm choosing to change it differently, I said. Not through force. Through evolution. Through proving that wolves can be stronger together than apart. Owen's face contorted. Then he shifted, his wolf lunging not at Thorn. At me. Thorn moved faster. He intercepted Owen mid-lunge, their wolves colliding with bone-crushing force. They went down in a tangle of fur and fangs, rolling across the stone floor. Blood sprayed. Snarls echoed. But this time was different. Through our bond, I could feel Thorn's strength. And he could feel mine. We moved as one, thought as one. When he dodged left, I knew it before he did. When he needed power, I sent it flowing through the bond without thinking. Owen didn't stand a chance. Thorn's jaws closed around Owen's throat. One twist, and it would be over. Stop, I said. Thorn hesitated. Through the bond, I felt his confusion. Owen had tried to kill me. Had planned to enslave me. Had orchestrated everything to tear the pack apart. He deserved death. I know, I said quietly. But he's still my brother. And I won't let our new bond begin with his blood. Thorn held position for another moment. Then, slowly, he released Owen and shifted back to human. Owen collapsed, gasping, his throat bruised but intact. Take him to the cells, Thorn ordered. Guards moved forward immediately, hauling Owen up. Along with anyone bearing that rebel mark. We'll deal with them after. As they dragged Owen away, he looked back at me. You're a fool, Nyla. You could have been a queen. A goddess. Instead, you chose to be a pet. I chose to be a partner, I corrected. There's a difference. He spat blood and said nothing else as the guards removed him. The hall was silent. Hundreds of wolves staring at us, at the silver gold light, still glowing faintly around our joined hands. Thorn and I stood together in the center of the ring, and I realized this was the moment. The point where everything either changed or shattered completely. Garrett rose from his seat, his face unreadable. Your Majesty, the Omega has manifested her true nature. Ancient law is clear. Ancient law, Thorn interrupted, was written by wolves who feared what they didn't understand. Who killed first and asked questions never. I won't follow a law built on genocide. Then you defy the Council. I'm offering the Council a choice. Thorn's voice carried absolute authority. Nyla and I have formed a new kind of bond. One based on mutual consent. On shared power. She hasn't controlled me. She's strengthened me. And I believe she can do the same for others. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Confused. Fearful. But also curious. Patricia stepped forward. Your Majesty, that's unprecedented. Silvercrests don't share power. They take it. Because that's all they were ever allowed to do. They were hunted, feared, forced into hiding. Of course they used their power defensively. Aggressively. I spoke up, my voice steady. But what if there's another way? What if Silvercrest power isn't meant to control alphas, but to balance them? Balance how? Another elder asked. This was it. The moment I'd been building toward. I released Thorn's hand and moved to the center of the platform where everyone could see me. The silver gold light pulsed around me, visible now to every wolf present. For centuries, pack structure has been rigid. Alphas rule. Betas serve. Omegas obey. You're born into your rank and die in it. No change. No growth. No evolution. I looked around the hall. But what if it doesn't have to be that way? What if power could be earned instead of inherited? That's chaos, Garrett said flatly. Without hierarchy, packs fall apart. Not without hierarchy. With flexible hierarchy. With wolves rising based on merit, not birth. I turned to Thorn. Show them. He understood immediately. Through the bond, he pulled on my power, letting it flow through him. His eyes blazed that silver gold color. I'm still an alpha, Thorn said. Still your king. but now I carry Silvercrest power too. It doesn't diminish me. It enhances me. Makes me more capable of understanding every wolf in this pack, not just the strong ones. I turned back to the crowd. That's what Silvercrests can do. Not control. Not enslave. Transfer power to those worthy of it. Create true balance between ranks. The hall erupted in arguments. Some wolves shouting support. Others crying blasphemy. Cassandra's voice cut through the chaos. And who decides who's worthy? You. She'd been quiet until now, watching from the sidelines. Now she stepped forward, her face a mask of righteous concern. You're asking us to trust a bloodline that's been extinct for generations. To bet our entire way of life on your promises. I'm asking you to evolve, I replied. By giving you unlimited power over every alpha in this territory? How is that different from tyranny? Because I'm not asking for power over anyone. I took a breath. I'm offering to share it. With any wolf brave enough to try. Silence fell. Then a voice from the back. I'll try. A wolf pushed through the crowd. Young, maybe 20. An Omega from the kitchens. I'd worked alongside her for years, but never learned her name. I'm Clara, she said, climbing onto the platform. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. I've been an Omega my whole life. Told I'm weak. Worthless. Only good for serving. If you're saying I could be more. She looked at me. Show me. My heart pounded. This was untested. Dangerous. I'd only done it once with Thorn, and we had the mate bond to stabilize the transfer. But if I didn't try, everything I'd said was just words. I held out my hand. This might hurt. Everything hurts when you're an Omega. She took my hand. I reached out with my power carefully, gently. Felt for Clara's wolf, her essence, her potential. And there, buried under years of submission training and self-doubt, I felt strength. Real strength. The kind that endures because it has no other choice. I pulled at that strength. Amplified it. Fed my power into it like oxygen into a flame. Clara gasped. Her eyes began to glow. Not silver gold like mine and Thorn's, but bronze. Beautiful and entirely her own. What? She stared at her hands. I feel different. Stronger. You're stronger, I said. Not alpha strong. Something new. Something in between. Clara looked at the crowd. At the wolves who'd spent years ignoring her, dismissing her. Then she smiled. I like it. The hall exploded. Wolves surged forward. Some demanding the same treatment. Others screaming that this was unnatural, dangerous, wrong. Garrett's face had gone purple. This is madness. You can't just redistribute power like it's a gift instead of a birthright? I interrupted. Why not? Because it destroys everything we've built. Pack structure keeps us safe, keeps us organized. Keeps some of us comfortable while others suffer, Clara said quietly. She was still staring at her hands. I've been an Omega for 20 years, Elder. 20 years of being told I'm less than. And now I feel whole. For the first time. Other Omegas in the crowd were nodding. Tears streaming down some faces. Thorn moved to stand beside me. Elder Garrett. You've served this pack faithfully for decades. But times change. Traditions evolve. We can either adapt or die clinging to the past. And if this fails? If redistributing power destabilizes the entire pack, then we'll deal with it together. Thorn's hand found mine. But I'd rather risk failure trying to build something better than succeed at maintaining something broken. Patricia spoke up, her voice thoughtful. The girl Clara, she doesn't seem controlled. Doesn't seem enslaved. She seems freed. Exactly, I said. That's what Silvercrest power can do when it's not used out of fear. When it's offered as a gift instead of taken as a weapon. Garrett looked at the other elders. At the crowd. At Clara still glowing with her new bronze light. Finally, he sighed. I still believe this is dangerous. Unprecedented. Potentially catastrophic. He paused. But I'm also old enough to admit when I might be wrong. If your majesty wishes to pursue this path, I won't stand in the way. But his eyes hardened. I'll be watching. And if this threatens pack safety, I will act. It wasn't approval. But it wasn't condemnation either. It was a chance. Thorn squeezed my hand. Through the bond, I felt his relief, his pride, his cautious hope. Then Cassandra stepped forward, and everything changed. How touching, she said, her voice dripping poison. Everyone's so moved by this display. But before we crown Nyla as our savior, perhaps we should address why 3 Omegas died in a fire just yesterday. The hall went quiet. Lady Cassandra, we have no proof, Thorn began. Don't you? She turned to face the crowd. Witnesses placed Nyla near the storage shed. The accelerant was taken. The fire started. And now she's demonstrating incredible power we never knew she had. Power she's been hiding. What else has she been hiding? I felt the crowd's mood shift. Suspicion creeping back in. I had nothing to do with that fire, I said firmly. Then who did? Cassandra's eyes were wide, innocent. Someone killed those Omegas. Someone with access and opportunity. And you're the only one with motive. What motive? To create chaos. To make the pack desperate for a solution. To position yourself as their savior right when they need one most. Cassandra shook her head sadly. It's brilliant, really. Start a crisis, then offer to fix it. Make everyone grateful to the monster they should fear. That's insane, Rita said, pushing forward. Nyla would never. Wouldn't she? Cassandra turned to Rita. You're the pack healer. You've known Nyla for years. Helped her hide. How do we know you're not complicit? Rita paled. This was spiraling. Cassandra was good, turning my moment of hope into suspicion, making the crowd doubt everything they'd just witnessed. Then Jack stepped forward from his position near the door. Lady Cassandra, he said quietly, I need to speak with you. Privately. Cassandra frowned. Commander, this isn't the time. It is exactly the time. Jax held up a small vial. Clear liquid. I found this in your chambers this morning. Hidden behind a false panel in your wardrobe. Cassandra's face went white. You had no right to search I had every right when investigating arson. The vial contains accelerant residue. The same chemical compound used to start the fire. Jax's voice was steady, factual. Your chambers also contain detailed maps of the Omega quarters, marked with exit points and structural weaknesses. The hall erupted. Cassandra backed up, her perfect mask cracking. You're lying. You planted that evidence. Did I also plant the wolfsbane I found? Jax pulled out another vial. The same poison someone's been using on His Majesty for months. Making him weaker. More controllable. Thorn's face went cold. What? The physician confirmed it yesterday. Small doses, consistent over time. Administered through your evening wine. Jax looked at Cassandra. The wine lady Cassandra personally prepared and served. Everything clicked into place. Cassandra hadn't just wanted me dead. She'd been systematically weakening Thorn, positioning herself to control him, to become queen of a king she'd broken. And when I appeared, when the mate bond threatened her plans, she'd escalated. You killed 3 innocent wolves, I said quietly. Just to frame me. Cassandra's laugh was brittle. They weren't innocent. They were nothing. Omegas. Replaceable. And yes, I killed them. Because you don't belong here. Because this is my pack, my throne, my life. Her voice rose to a shriek. I've been preparing for this since I was a child. I was supposed to be queen. And then you show up, some nobody Omega, and steal everything. Take her, Thorn ordered. His voice was ice. Guards moved in. Cassandra fought, screaming, thrashing, but they overpowered her. As they dragged her away, she locked eyes with me. This isn't over. My father will come for you. The Northern Packs will never accept a Silver Crest. The doors closed on her threats. The hall was silent. Then Clara started clapping. Slowly at first. Then others joined. Rita. Some of the Omegas. More wolves. Not everyone. Garrett and several elders remained stone-faced. Many higher-ranked wolves looked uncertain. But it was a start. Thorn turned to address the crowd. We have much to discuss. much to rebuild. But today, we've taken the first step towards something new. Something better. He pulled me close. Together. Through the bond, I felt his exhaustion, his relief, his love. And for the first time in 12 years, I felt something I'd never thought possible. Hope. 3 months later, the pack looked different. Not in obvious ways. The buildings were the same. The territory boundaries unchanged. But something fundamental had shifted. You could feel it in the air, in the way wolves moved through the courtyards, in the conversations that happened openly instead of in whispers. I stood at the window of what used to be just Thorn's chambers and was now ours, watching the morning training session below. Clara was leading it. An Omega teaching combat techniques to betas and alphas who actually listened, who respected her. It still felt like a dream sometimes. "You're thinking too loud," Thorn said from behind me. His arms wrapped around my waist, pulling me back against his chest. I can feel it through the bond. I smiled, just remembering how different things were. Better or worse? Definitely better. I turned in his arms to face him, though I miss sleeping past dawn occasionally. That's what you get for agreeing to be co-alpha. He kissed my forehead. The paperwork never ends. Co-alpha, not queen, not consort. Equal partner in leadership. It had taken weeks to convince the council, even longer to get the other territories to accept it. Some still hadn't, but enough had agreed to make it official. The Moonshadow Pack now had 2 alphas, one born to it, one who'd earned it through a power older than pack law itself. Speaking of paperwork, Thorn said, reluctance clear in his voice. "We have the Northern delegation arriving this afternoon." I groaned. I'd forgotten. Do we have to? Unfortunately, yes. Your brother's trial is today. They're here as witnesses. Owen. I'd visited him twice in the cells over the past months. Both times had been painful. He refused to see reason, refused to accept that I'd chosen a different path. To him, I was still a traitor to our bloodline. Maybe one day he'd understand. Maybe not. What will happen to him? I asked quietly. Exile. To the neutral territories beyond pack law. He'll live, but never be allowed to return. Thorn's grip tightened slightly. It's more mercy than he deserves. He's still my brother. I know. That's the only reason he's not dead. We stood there for a moment, then Thorn sighed. There's something else. The Northern delegation is bringing Marcus Vale, Cassandra's father. The alpha who'd raised her to believe power was everything, that queenship was destiny. How's he taking it? I asked. About as well as expected. His daughter was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder and attempted assassination. His family's reputation is destroyed. And the alliance he'd spent years building is gone. Thorn paused. He's demanded to speak with you personally. About what? Wouldn't say. But Nyla, he turned me to face him fully. You don't have to see him. He has no authority here anymore. No leverage. I know. But maybe I should anyway. Closure, or something. I managed to smile. Besides, what's the worst he can do? I've faced down councils and bloodline tests. One angry alpha seems manageable. That's my mate. Terrifying and brave in equal measure. The word mate still sent warmth through my chest. We completed the bond ceremony 4 weeks ago. Official. Public. Permanent. My mother's voice echoed in my memory sometimes. The stories she'd told me as a child about what mate bonds could be when they were built on trust instead of fear. I wished she could see that she'd been right. That love didn't have to mean weakness. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Come in, Thorn called. Rita entered, carrying a tray with tea and those little honey cakes I'd developed an obsession with. Good morning. Thought you two might need sustenance before the chaos begins. You're a lifesaver, I said, immediately reaching for a cake. Rita smiled. She'd been officially appointed as chief healer last month, with a seat on the Reformed Council. The first Omega to ever hold the position. How are the new transfers going? Thorn asked her. Slowly but steadily. 3 more wolves requested power sharing yesterday. All Omegas, all tested positive for latent strength. Rita set down the tray. Nyla, you'll need to meet with them this week. They're eager but nervous. I nodded. The power sharing had become routine now. Not every wolf wanted it. Many were content with their current rank. But for those who did, who felt that pull towards something more, I could help unlock it. It wasn't perfect. The new hierarchy was messy, complicated. Some wolves struggled with the changes. Others thrived. But it was growing, evolving, just like I'd promised. Oh, and Elder Garrett asked to see you both before the delegation arrives, Rita added. Said it was important. Thorn and I exchanged glances. Garrett had accepted the changes, but he'd never embraced them. He remained skeptical, watching everything with those sharp old eyes. Did he say what about? I asked. No, but he seemed not angry. Almost excited, if I'm reading him right. That was unusual enough to warrant investigation. We found Garrett in the archives, surrounded by ancient texts and scrolls. He looked up when we entered, and there was something in his expression I'd never seen before. Wonder. Your Majesty. Nyla. He gestured to the books spread across the table. I've been researching, looking into old records about silver crests, about what they were before the hunts began. And? Thorn asked cautiously. I was wrong. The words seemed to cost him. About nearly everything. The histories I learned, the ones my father taught me, they were propaganda. Written by alphas who feared losing power. But the original texts, the ones from before. He picked up a crumbling scroll. Silver crests weren't created to control alphas. They were created to heal pack bonds. To strengthen connections between wolves. To prevent the kind of isolation and hierarchy that leads to tyranny. I moved closer, staring at the scroll. The writing was ancient, barely legible. But I could make out enough. Silvercrest bloodline, gifted by the moon's grace, to bind pack as family, to share strength in times of weakness, to ensure no wolf stands alone. You're doing exactly what your ancestors did, Garrett said quietly. What they were meant to do before fear twisted their purpose. You're healing this pack, Nyla. Reconnecting us. I didn't know what to say. Garrett, who'd tried to have me executed, who'd spent months opposing every change, was now. Thank you, I managed finally. He nodded gruffly. I'm still watching. Still cautious. But I wanted you to know what you're building here matters. And I'll support it. Properly this time. Through the bond, I felt Thorn's surprise matching my own. Progress came in unexpected forms. The meeting with Marcus Vale was tense but brief. He stood in the formal receiving room, a massive alpha with graying hair and eyes like his daughter's. Cold. Calculating. I came to see the wolf who destroyed my family, he said without preamble. Your daughter destroyed herself, I replied evenly. I just survived her. She was raised to rule, to be strong, to take what she wanted. His jaw clenched. I made her that way, pushed her toward power at any cost. And now, he looked away. Now she'll spend her life in a cell because of it. She murdered 3 innocent wolves, Thorn said coldly. She poisoned me. She tried to frame Nyla for crimes she committed. That's not strength. That's cruelty. I know. Marcus's voice cracked slightly. I know what she did. And I know I'm partly responsible. I taught her that love was weakness. That partnership was submission. That the only thing that mattered was power. He looked at me. But watching you two these past months, hearing the reports, you've proven that wrong. Proven that sharing power doesn't diminish it. That love can coexist with leadership. I hadn't expected this. Hadn't expected him to be capable of growth. Why are you telling us this? I asked. Because the northern packs are watching. Waiting to see if this experiment fails. If you falter, they'll move against you. Use it as proof that the old ways are better. He straightened. But I'm going to tell them something different. I'm going to tell them my daughter failed not because she was strong, but because she didn't understand what real strength is. And that maybe it's time we learned from wolves who do. It wasn't friendship. Wasn't even alliance. But it was acknowledgement. And from an alpha like Marcus Vale, that meant something. That evening, Thorn and I stood together on the balcony overlooking the pack grounds. The sun was setting, painting everything in gold and crimson. Below, wolves of all ranks mingled freely. Clara was laughing with a beta warrior. Rita was teaching younger Omegas about herb cultivation. Even some of the skeptical elders were engaged in actual conversation with wolves they'd have ignored months ago. Think it'll last? I asked quietly. Honestly? I don't know. Thorn pulled me closer. Change is hard. Some wolves will always prefer the old ways. And there are still territories that see us as a threat. Comforting. But he continued, I think we have something they don't. Something that can't be broken by force or tradition. What's that? Hope. He turned me to face him. Real hope. The kind that comes from wolves actually believing they can be more than what they were born as. That's powerful, Nyla. More powerful than any alpha command or ancient law. I rested my head against his chest, feeling his heartbeat through the bond. Steady. Strong. Ours. I got a letter today, I said. From a pack 3 territories away. An Omega there heard about what we're doing. Asked if it would work for them. If change was really possible. What did you tell her? That it's hard. That it's scary. That not everyone will accept it. I smiled. But that it's worth trying. Worth fighting for. Thorn kissed the top of my head. We're going to have a lot of those letters, aren't we? Probably. Good. I could hear the smile in his voice. Let them come. Let them see that there's another way. That Silvercrests aren't monsters to fear, but bridges to something better. We stood there as darkness fell, and I thought about how far I'd come. From a terrified 12-year-old hiding in a cellar to a co-alpha helping reshape pack structure itself. My parents would have been proud. Or maybe they would have been terrified. Possibly both. Nyla. Thorn's voice pulled me from my thoughts. There's one more thing I need to tell you. About the Northern Territories. Something in his tone made me look up. What? Marcus mentioned something during his visit. Rumors. About another Omega in the far north exhibiting unusual abilities. Strength that shouldn't exist. Eyes that glow in moonlight. My heart skipped. Another Silvercrest? Maybe. Or maybe something else entirely. But if there are others like you out there, others with old bloodlines we thought were extinct. He paused. Everything we're building here could be just the beginning. I stared out at the pack grounds, at the wolves who'd learned to trust each other across old boundaries, and felt something stir in my chest. Not fear. Anticipation. Then we'll find them, I said firmly. Find them and show them they don't have to hide. That there's a place where being different isn't a death sentence. Where power can be shared instead of hoarded. Where you continue to be impossibly optimistic and brave? Thorn finished. Someone has to be. He laughed, and the sound echoed across the balcony. Friend, he said, mimicking my storytelling voice, if you think this story ends with everything perfect and resolved, you haven't been paying attention. I elbowed him gently. I'm serious. If there are others, then we'll face it together. Like everything else. He sobered. But tonight, can we just enjoy this? The peace we've fought for? The pack we're rebuilding? I looked at him. At the wolf who'd been terrified of mate bonds and had chosen one anyway. Who'd been raised to rule alone and had learned to lead beside me. Who'd become everything I never knew I needed. Yes, I agreed. Tonight we rest. Tomorrow we change the world. That's my mate. Never thinking small. Friend, thank you for staying with me to the very end. If you believe that strength isn't about how you fall, but how you get back up, if you believe that real power comes from lifting others instead of standing on them, then please tap subscribe and join our community. You won't want to miss the stories we share next. Because here's the truth I learned. I spent 12 years believing I was a monster everyone should fear. Turns out, I was just a wolf everyone needed. Someone brave enough to stand in that throne hall and say that the old ways weren't the only ways. That hierarchy could evolve. That love wasn't weakness, but the greatest strength of all. I've got more stories that will move you, and I promise each one is worth your time. I've picked out another story just for you, and you should see it on the screen now. I hope to see you there. Because the greatest twist of all? I was never meant to be ruled. I was meant to be free. And now, finally, I am.